Hey Craig, congratulations on getting this in, and way to be industrious and figure out that you could use your onboard meter for reflective and then any incident otherwise. Good. So you said that you were having trouble with that particular meter in that it was giving you camera settings that your camera don't listen to me, that your camera doesn't have. And that can be a problem. Hopefully you got one of the Sekonics, because with the Sekonics you can pre-program parameters into it. Like you can just look at what your possibilities are in your camera and then program the light meter to that, and it never gives you nonsense. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing. So here are your finals. This is gorgeous, and you gave me 4 finals, and I'm really glad that you gave me this one with the direct reflection from the sun in it. I was looking at that in your contact sheet. With the first download, and I was like, oh, I really hope I have this, because I'm really intrigued by the color separation that's happening here in the sky. I think that's very interesting. I don't know how that's happening. It's like one of those things probably that the camera sees that we don't, you know, very, very interesting. So these two are gorgeous. And then these two, of course, are really pixelated, and in your contact sheets I can tell, you know, you're shooting them at a really high ISO. Let's see if I can find it. Oops. You know, I wish I could move my lassoed frame but I can't. So it looks like that's reflective. The one I'm in question is reflective 1/3 of a second at f/5.6. Yeah, and so that sounds like if you're using a zoom lens, like probably a digital lens that came with your camera as a kit, those lenses when they're at a little bit telephoto, like if they're at a natural focal length or a longer focal length, you have limited aperture settings, because you can imagine as the lens expands and the glass elements get further away, that your wider open apertures are cut off just by the angle of the lens kind of cutting them off, because it's at a longer length, because the aperture is closer to the camera body, the mechanism of the aperture. And so the longer you have that zoom lens extended, the smaller your widest aperture gets, your potential widest aperture gets. So that's probably what's going on. You know, in my arsenal of photographic tools, I have a number of non-digital fixed focal length lenses that I love, because I always have gigantic apertures available to me. Now the downfall, of course, is that I can only shoot at like 28 or 55 or whatever the fixed focal length is. But in a low light situation, I don't really care. I just want as big an aperture as I can. I want a fast lens. And so I really love those lenses. And you said you have a Nikon, and a lot of Nikons, Nikon is like one of these thoughtful camera companies. They're really nice. And a lot of Nikons, even the digital ones, have what's called an F mount. And you should check and see if yours does, because if it has the F mount for lenses, that means that you can put any F lens on there, from like the FM camera bodies from like the 70s. The lenses, the non-digital lenses that worked on those, will also work on your Nikon. Now I don't know if that's the case with yours, but a lot of times it is. Nikon's just really sweet like that. And then those old lenses are also using that really wonderful, God, I forget the glass company. Leica, I think Leica glass, like for all the glass elements, and it was just a really incredible Swiss company that made just fantastic. I don't know if they're still around, but they just made really high quality glass. And so if the F mount series works with your camera, go ahead and pick up some cheap fixed focal length non-digital lenses for low light situations like this. You will never regret it, trust me. Anyways, so that's what's going on here, is you're compensating with a really high ISO, and my Nikon also does not perform well at high ISOs. I might have mentioned already in one of my videos that my Nikon doesn't perform well at ISOs above 640. It just doesn't. You know, there's a lot of great things about my camera, but that is not one of them. Newer generation digital cameras have this a little bit more resolved, and mine is not a newer generation, but I'm just sticking with it because I know it and I really like it. It's just one of the things I have to deal with. So this is another reason why I really love my fixed focal length lenses with the gigantic apertures, is because then I don't have to worry about shooting at anything higher than 640. And I think this one that I have lassoed right now is like 1800, and maybe the other one was 4500. I don't know, but that's why it's so grainy. Like I can't even tell if they're in focus. I'm assuming you're using a tripod, because your shutter speeds are about 1/30th of a second, and there's no way any photographer in their right mind would think that they could get a stable image at 1/30th of a second, right? Because really, you know, 1/60th of a second is the cutoff. So certainly you're using a tripod. And if you're not, don't tell me about it, but definitely take a tripod with you. next time. But these are perfect, beautiful, these first two. Exactly the kind of clarity that I'd like to see. And the water is really nice because you actually are using a fast shutter speed here, so we have like crisp detail, and the water is frozen in these beautiful motions, which I actually really enjoy. Of course, just a little bit slower, and this water would be completely smooth, which would be beautiful too, but you would have to have that tripod that you're certainly using to get a good shot like that. All right, back to your contact sheets. So these look great, and you labeled your images with their exposure settings, which is exactly what I want for the rest of the class. Thank you. And you told me if they're incident or reflective. All of your compositions are actually pretty good. You gave me a nice write-up here. Very good. Appreciate that. So the assignment looks good. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Motivated. Way to get this in. And it looks pretty good. Okay, thank you, Craig. I'll see you in the next assignment.